7:37 at KPEL. Welcome back to Acadiana's Morning News. Rob Kirkpatrick and Bernadette Lee continuing with our coverage of Campaign 2016. Our 5-question series continues this morning with Congressman Dr. Charles Boustany, who is running for the Senate seat, which will be vacated by David Vitter. Good morning, sir.
Well, good morning. Great to be with y'all.
Great to talk to you, too. So we have asked the same 5 questions to all the congressional and Senate candidates that we have talked to in this season, and we will continue with you. Let's start with, what will you do differently than the rest of those in the field that really is kind of what makes you stand out from the whole group?
Well, I'm a conservative who gets results, and I think that's the big distinction. I have a proven record of actually getting legislation passed into law on a wide range of topics, whether it's on health care, tax policy, energy policy, and a number of other areas. So I think what we need in the U.S. Senate is a conservative who understands how to get things done and has a proven record of getting those things done.
So obviously the oil industry here in Louisiana facing some pretty tough times. Here in Acadiana, a lot of folks facing layoffs, some a year plus out of work here in the industry. How will you work to advocate for that industry in Washington in different ways than you have already?
Well, first of all, I've already been working on it. I stopped 2 major tax increases on the oil and gas industry, including the $10.25 tax per barrel of oil. I've also gotten legislation passed in the House to stop new regulations that were very poorly crafted and very onerous in terms of the impact it will have on jobs and the industry itself. What we need now is a U.S. Senator who understands every aspect of this industry, as I do, who can go to bat on day one and stop these regulations. I can tell you right now that one of the things I will do will be to really scrutinize every single appointee that comes before the Senate to be appointed to positions that have any dealings with the energy sector. And I will ask them careful questions. But on day one, I'm going to introduce legislation to stop these regulations because this administration has perpetrated a war on oil and gas, and we have to reverse the effects of this to stop the job loss and stop the assault on American energy production, which is one of the clearest signs of American exceptionalism I've ever seen.
If elected to the Senate position, what do you think your first month would be like? What would it look like? Do you have a first order of business?
Well, first order of business is going to be to start immediately reversing the ill effects that we've seen coming from this current administration with respect to our oil and gas industry. We have got to stop the job loss and reassert American energy production and position it to take market share from OPEC and Russia. I mean, this is critical. This is a strategic move that needs to be started. I led the effort to lift the ban on crude oil exports. That's the first step to doing this. Now we got to follow through with real policies that put American energy production first and redefines what energy security looks like across the world. I want an American view of energy security, not an OPEC, Saudi, or Russian view of it.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. Very interesting.
And I think the other thing is we got to, related to that, is to reverse the ill impacts of the Iran nuclear agreement. John Kerry did a major disservice to the United States when he approved that Iran nuclear agreement. It's put American lives at risk. It's certainly hurt American interests worldwide, and we definitely have to stop that. I mean, why would we allow the Iranians to sell oil anywhere they want and to continue their nuclear program and to use the money to fuel more terrorism and put American lives at risk? And why would we do all that? Why would our Secretary of State do that? It's wrong. And I'll tell you, I don't want to bind the hands of American energy producers and let the Iranians run free around the globe selling oil and using that money for terrorist purposes. We got to stop it.
So as a state that's had its own issues with race, how do you think race will play a role in executing the office as senator?
Well, I mean, I don't know how. Well, I'm not quite sure I understand your question fully. Can you elaborate?
Yeah, I mean, just with the issues. I mean, obviously, we are seeing the issues with police officers and black men. Black Lives Matter. Proposed legislation has come up and gone down. Some has been approved. These are issues. Race-related laws are something that's probably going to come across your desk as senator. What do you see as Louisiana's role in that?
Well, first, let me say this. Any violence against police officers and our law enforcement is unacceptable because our laws, our system of laws breaks down, civil society breaks down. That is unacceptable. And there are legal methods for dealing with people who are bad actors within that. And I think our police departments, our sheriff's departments, first and foremost, want to make sure that they're conducting themselves with the highest level of integrity. I think that's important to recognize. Now, clearly, we need to understand what's going on in communities. I think policing needs to have good relationships with leaders in various communities that they police, and a lot more can be done to improve that. I think Louisiana did a pretty good job in the midst of a crisis, and I think there will be some look going into the future at how do you look at criminal justice system and any reforms that need to be made. I can tell you, as I view all this, I'm going to want to talk to experts in law enforcement to understand the concerns that they have. For instance, the use of body cameras is a very, very controversial proposition. There are pros and cons, and we need to understand this fully before we mandate anything like that, and certainly any unfunded mandates. So a lot of work will need to be done, and what's needed is good leadership, and good leadership in the United States Senate that's result-oriented, and that's what I'll bring to the U.S. Senate.
As we wrap up with Congressman Dr. Charles Boustany, the question we have ended every interview with, sir, what is the biggest misconception about you?
Well, first of all, let me just say that I'm a conservative who gets results. That's what's clear. And if anybody doubts my conservative credentials, then they just need to simply look at my record. I think we've seen a lot of distortions in this race. And the fact is, I've had the great honor of representing our congressional district over these past years. And I think the record I've amassed is one of proven conservative results. And that's what distinguishes me from any other candidate in this race.
All right. Congressman Dr. Charles Boustany, we appreciate your time. You can hear all of our 5 questions interviews that will be posted at kpel965.com.